And welcome to a WFUV Sports Spotlight. We are here today with Jaden Vazquez of Fordham Football. He is number 18. He plays linebacker, and he's in his junior year here at Fordham from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And we have Jaden on the show today at a sports special. It's sort of the first of its kind to talk about his experience and talk about his story. He came out publicly as bisexual a year ago to his Fordham Football friends and teammates, and he's since begun to share this story. He talked to News 12 in the Bronx and Outsports, and now he's talking to us to share his story. And first of all, Jaden, thanks so much for sharing your story. We're really excited to be able to elevate it here, and I hope you're doing well today.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And before we get into your experience and your story and your thoughts, I just wanted to ask you how you're doing as we're transitioning into a new normal, a really odd time. There is no Fordham football in the fall. The Patriot League has postponed play to the spring, and even that's uncertain. So just wondering how you're adjusting back to campus, how you're adjusting back to life here.
Yeah, it is a lot different now. School-wise, everything's on my laptop. So I feel like I've become very organized now to make sure everything's in place, because having everything online, you kind of forget sometimes what's going on because you have the in-person aspect to it. Football-wise, it feels doesn't feel real. It feels like we're just waiting on the season to come as if it's a long summer, but you have to catch reality that it's not coming, and we're very uncertain of what's going to go in the future. But now we kind of just have workouts outside, social distancing, and yeah, the feeling on campus is kind of the same, other than the fact that everyone's wearing masks. But we're going through it.
We're going through it, and hopefully we will be able to have Fordham football in the spring. But again, there's not a lot that you can count on right now. I want to dive into your story, and I want to sort of rewind if we can and start at the beginning. Being Jaden Vazquez, being a young person, whether that's middle school, you graduated from Liberty High School, and then you came over to Fordham. You're now in your junior year. But going back to some of those early days and maybe reckoning with a part of your identity that you maybe realized was different, could you just tell us about that, and in your own words, tell us that story, whether that moves toward coming out or just how that felt, being a young person, specifically being a young athlete, and realizing that there was something about you that maybe was different.
Yeah, so a lot of kids don't know anything until they're accustomed to it. So when I was younger, I always knew that I was bisexual. I didn't know the term bisexual, but I knew that I liked both men and women. And I don't think I came to terms with myself until ending middle school, going into high school. But when I was younger, I kind of I just knew it in myself, and I didn't know it was different than anyone else. I thought that was just the regular. And when I found out that it wasn't, that kind of impacted me differently, because it was something I thought I was going to have to hide for the rest of my life. And I was very comfortable, maybe because I was young and naive, but I was very comfortable saying that I'm going to have a wife and kids, never have an emotional connection with a man. And it's upsetting, but I know a lot of people are like that as well. But for me, as a bisexual and not just fully gay, I feel like it was easier for me to hide that. And then I finally came to terms with myself and saying, hey, let's not lie to ourselves anymore, that this isn't us. And let's be true to myself. I still wasn't out. I might have told a few friends, but I finally became comfortable with myself and accepting the fact that I am. I feel like that was on the journey to coming out. First, when everyone comes out, you have to come out to yourself, and then come out to other people. But in high school, I told a few friends, and a lot of them were accepting. I didn't get any backlash from them. A lot of them were understanding that some people might be indifferent about it. But coming to college was really helpful to me, and I hope that other people have the same experience that I did. But coming to college, I surrounded myself with friends that I consider family. They're on my team, on different sports teams like women's soccer. And with those connections that I built, it just felt like no matter who anyone is, we still accept them because they're family. And telling a few people in those close groups and them helping me accept myself and accept the fact that other people will accept me as well really helped me come out. And that's when I came out last fall.
And having that, the other element of being a football player, and in so many ways that seems to be a thing that can make this really challenging in some of those environments and in locker rooms. But then there's another part of it that you talk about where the team culture and the sort of family that you build in a football locker room can be helpful. So in what ways does football play a part in this story?
Yeah, so that culture that I talk about that's very close knitted and you consider yourselves family, I feel like when you come to college, it's a whole different, like, it's just culture times 10 because this is really who you're with every day. In high school, you have your own friend groups, your own cliques, and you also play football with people. And football is only at the end of the day, and then you play games on Fridays. But in college, I live with these people in dorms. We play together, we struggle together, 6 a.m. morning lifts, and that really changes perspective of people. Growing up and playing football was very hard because I never would have came out to anyone on my high school football team or middle school, just because there's a lot of stigma that you face, especially in high school, that people go through. And I saw that through other people. If there was anyone else in my high school that had come out and then people make fun of them, people judge them. And that's not something I wanted for myself. And I feel like that's why I was never comfortable to come out in high school. In the locker room, it wasn't that there was hazing or there wasn't that there was any like straight discrimination, but it was just the stigma of what someone in the LGBTQ community is, that they're less feminine, they're not manly, because football is a very dominant sport, and I feel like a lot of people have the stigma on LGBTQ athletes that they can't be a part of that, and that's one thing I struggle with myself, and then I had to face and realize like, hey, you can be bisexual and still play the sport, and then. So moving forward into college, the connection that you make with these people, my teammates, is just so great that they help me realize like, hey, that doesn't matter, because in 2020, a lot of people they're a lot more open than they used to be, and they're very accepting.
And even some of your teammates encouraged you to come out. What was it like to have their support, not only after you came out, but being on your side of this, pushing you forward toward coming out?
Yeah, that was very emotional. Just because when I came out, that was something that I haven't told a lot of people. My immediate family didn't even know. And this was something I was telling my closest friends because we lived all on the same floor. And I remember how emotional it was and how they were just telling me like, hey, we have your back. Like if anyone like messes with you, let us know. This doesn't change anything, because they understood that I've always been bisexual, and I let them know that this isn't something that changed. It's just now that they knew, and they understood that my personality and my character didn't change at all. They just now knew that I was bisexual, and coming out to them, I feel like helped me a lot in my coming out process, because those are my teammates mean the most to me, and as well as my family. And when you tell someone that you care about so much and you realize that they are accepting, it really does empower you to then tell people you might not know and tell it publicly.
And sometimes hearing the words "this doesn't change anything" can be the most important. And I
Yeah.
wonder if you think that's true.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true because a lot of people do change. I know a lot of different stories where kids come out, adults come out, people come out to their family, and they disown them. They never want to speak to them again. They get kicked out of their house, and it's so impactful to me because I know even if things don't change and people don't leave your life, a lot of people will look at me and say, "Oh, that's the bisexual athlete," and that's not something I want to be looked at as. I want to be looked at as Jaden Vazquez, and then I'm also bisexual. And when someone tells you, "Hey, this doesn't change anything," this means that they still see you as you, and they don't just put the label on you, and then everything you do in life, everything is just based around your sexuality. And when someone says that nothing's changed, that means they're still going to treat you like they treated you before they knew.
And there's sort of this tug and pull between this is such a big thing and this means so much because it does, because it is rare for an LGBTQ athlete specifically to play football. And so in so many ways, there's a great weight to that. But then in so many other ways, it's just a detail. And it's just something about you that is not defining. How do you reckon with that? Because this part of you, I think, feels a responsibility to speak out. You're now, leading the subgroup, the LGBTQ plus subgroup of Fordham Connect, which I want to talk about. So you feel an obligation to speak out. You're speaking with me and Outsports and News 12. But then on the other hand, you're just like anyone else on the team, and you don't stand out.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, and I agree 100% because I'm still just a person. I'm still just a person like the next person next to me, and it's a lot to always bring it into attention because you shouldn't have to. But I think that telling my story definitely normalizes it,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like if stories aren't told, then it's not going to be normalized. And I just hope that when people hear my story, they can then base, if any of their friends were to come out or if they were to come out, they can realize like, hey, maybe this isn't that big of a deal. Maybe this is just something that is a part of life and that we can just live through because it doesn't end anything. It's just information that you now are aware of. And yeah, so just to reiterate, I just really believe that I have an obligation in helping other athletes because I wish I had someone to look up to. Not that I need people to look up to me, but I wish I had someone in athletics that were to come out gay, bisexual, or lesbian, and I can see like, hey, there are people like me, and I'm not an outcast or anything, and just again, just to normalize everything.
And there are examples, but there are very few of them of specifically male athletes who are openly gay or openly bisexual.
Yeah.
In professional sports. Jason Collins in the NBA, Robbie Rogers in the MLS, Michael Sam for a brief moment in the NFL. How important and how often do you imagine a day where we can have more figures like that and it can be completely normal? That's got to be, where we're trying to get with this, right? And how great a world would that be?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a world where it's not a news story,
Mm-hmm.
where it can just be, yeah, that is a gay athlete. And it doesn't have to be a big headline. But I know that there are more gay, bisexual, anyone in the community. I know there are athletes out there, and I know that there are athletes in the closet. Not force anyone to come out, but I hope with stories like that, stories like mine, stories about the next person, just help people be more comfortable and push us to a society where that doesn't matter and it doesn't need to be this grand thing, and it can just be just as normal as being straight.
And I imagine that you understand better than anyone how difficult it can be to come out within those environments. And even though it's likely that there are those athletes who are in the closet, it is that hard. And I use the word suffocating to describe your experience. Try to paint for us how hard it is. It is really the hardest thing that a lot of people have to do in their lives coming out, and specifically in the environment of sports.
Yeah. So I use suffocating just because that's what it feels like. It feels like you're holding something in, and it feels like your entire life is a lie. You have to code switch. You have to put up this facade that you are a straight male or a straight female, and it's tiring. And just laying in your bed at night or just walking around by yourself, and you're just thinking like, no one knows this about me, and it's something that I think is an important factor about me. And I have to lie to people, and if people ask, I feel uncomfortable and I lie, and then it just feels like there's so much built up that you just want to tell everyone, but you're so scared of telling people because you're afraid of what they're going to say. And that's why I feel like it's so suffocating, because you feel like there's no options for you. And then so I just hope that we don't, like, people in the community don't have to feel that anymore, and that they can just comfortably come out to someone and not have to worry about their ideals.
And you sharing your story is moves us closer to that day, and that's why it's so important. You mentioned code switching and maybe even adjusting personality or suppressing parts of personality. Talk about your relationship with stereotypes, and how there's a stereotype about what a football player is, what a male is, and how that affected your journey.
Yeah, so a lot of people have stigma on football players in general, that it's toxic masculinity. Everything just has to be power dominated. In males, they're just the breadwinner. You can't show emotion. You don't even wear shorts past your knees.
Right.
And I just think for some people, maybe not all, it's like it's tiring to have to fit that standard all the time. And before I came out, people would just consider myself metrosexual, and I feel like that's even growing now. And for a lot of males, not just LGBTQ plus males, I know that they go through a lot on having to fit the standard, as well as women for the female standard. And yeah, in football, it was hard for me, because I always, as you said, I was trying to suppress, like I did suppress my personality, because I was afraid of coming off as feminine, when there's nothing wrong with being feminine, and there's nothing wrong with being masculine. You don't have to fit a gender or stereotype to be either. And as I said, it's very almost nauseating when you have to keep changing yourself to become that.
And the statistics are challenging, and the only reason that I'll read them is because people need to know them, which is that LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide, and that multiple is 8 times more likely if their family doesn't embrace their identity. And the only reason I say that is because, as much as your story is such a beacon of hope, and I do want to turn into the subject of hope after this, but even with that hope, there's so much pain that young people feel. This is the hardest question, but in your eyes, what do we need to do better as a society, as a university community, in athletics, whatever it might be? How can we change that reality?
Yeah, to start on the one point where you said that they're more likely to commit suicide. I know that a lot of people struggle with the idea of never telling anyone, and it's upsetting that people rather kill themselves than come out to their family, come out to their friends. Um, and that's very emotional. I think as a society, we need to create a space where that's not the case, where people rather come out and people rather share who they are and share their diversity and be happy about it and not be afraid to be who they are. So as a society, I think we just need to push to a place where just being more accepting. And I know that a lot of places have, and as you can see, Fordham, there's a handful of LGBTQ athletes, and I bet there's more. But everyone here is very accepting, and I've never experienced discrimination. That doesn't mean that there hasn't been, but one thing that the group Fordham Connect is trying to start, and we're trying to start it within athletics, is just having spaces where people can talk about problems that they're facing. It doesn't just have to be LGBTQ. There's the big groups of just mental health, BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, people of color, and then a women's subgroup, and just producing spaces where people can express themselves in a setting with other people like themselves. Because as you may know, there's teams where there might be only be one Black female on the entire team, and that can feel alone. I'm the only bisexual out male on my team, and sometimes I do feel alone. And to talk and to experience with other people like yourself, and the only way to get that is if you normalize and create an environment where people can feel comfortable coming out, and you don't have to be gay, straight, or bi. But just coming out and accepting yourself for who you are is very impactful. And I think that's where we need to push to, a place where everyone can be happy with who they are, and they don't need to feel like they need to change themselves to fit a standard.
Jaden, how important was it to get a call from your head coach, Coach Conlon, and to receive his support? What did that mean to you?
So at first, I was very afraid. Not because I didn't think he was going to be accepting. I knew he would be. But just myself and having to face that is the reason why I was afraid. It made me so happy, and I remember crying after the call, just hearing. I knew he was going to say, "Hey, love you, nothing's changed," but just the fact of hearing him say that was very emotional, as well as my position coach, Coach Timms. He told me to stay after one of the meetings. He was like, "Hey, like, love you. Everything's good. I'm very thankful and happy that you finally feel comfortable coming out. If you need anything, come to us." And just having people like that around you, especially just figures like that, like your coach, or if anything, if it was a professor, if it was your parents, if it was just a mentor, is just so helpful in a coming out journey. And in any journey where you want to change something about yourself, because having a support system just is so great.
Is there someone that you would point out in your life who is a hero to you, or a particular ally to you, or a group of people who, without them or without this person, you don't know how you could have come out? Because this is just not something that a lot of people can do alone.
Yeah, I can I can name names down the line. For one, always my biggest support system is my mother. Love my mother more than anything. I'll do anything for her. I remember maybe 3 times a year since I was born, my mom has come up to me, my sister, saying, hey, I just want to let you know, if you ever consider yourself gay or if you ever consider yourself anything, you can talk to me. I love you. I accept you. And I remember just laying down and crying in my room every time she asked me, and me continuously telling her, no, I'm not. And telling her, no, I'm straight. I'm only into women. And just lying to her for years and years and telling her, she obviously made the joke like, hey, I already knew. But it was so impactful to me my entire life of her asking me and never telling me, hey, I know you're bisexual, but her asking me and making me feel comfortable in a space where I could. I only came out to her this summer of 2019, but just the fact that she helped me, and I look up to her through everything, not just this coming out process. Other people on my team who helped me a lot is like Cameron Blair, Cooper Weiss, Alfonso Dixon, Naeem Mayfield, Gavin Watson. Those are the first people I've told on my team, and they let me know from the jump since the second I told them, hey, we love you, you're still our boy, and have never treated me differently. They're very respectful and let me and ask questions because they're my brothers and you ask questions as much as you want. But they definitely have changed my life for the better because they've accepted me through anything since the first second. They didn't flinch to say, we accept you. They didn't have to think about it. They didn't have to talk amongst themselves. It was just, damn, they accepted it. Also, the president of Fordham Connect, Maggie Grossman, has definitely been one of the most helpful people in this coming out process, as well as Kendall Dandridge and Jenna Devine, also women's soccer. I say that Maggie has been one of the most helpful pieces in my coming out process because she is lesbian herself. And I felt like we had a different connection, just a very strong connection because she understood what I was going through. And she has given me so much advice, has made me feel comfortable, as well as the other girls in women's soccer. I'm just telling me like, hey, maybe this is a bigger deal in your head than it is in real life. And they said that they loved me and they supported me. And as I said, having a support system is definitely so just makes me happy. And I wouldn't have came out if I didn't have it. I know a lot of people do come out, even if they don't, because that's something that you need to do for yourself. But I'm thankful for the people in my life because they've just made me feel so comfortable in everything.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's true that doing this alone is impossible. You mentioned Fordham Connect. Tell us a little bit more about Fordham Connect and the mission, and this is about addressing mental health in sport and creating open space for conversation. Just tell us your vision for what that community can look like.
Yeah, so my vision for Fordham Connect, I don't want it to be almost too scripted, because this is something where everyone's going to connect with themselves. It's always funny to say that. But I hope with this that people can come together and it can just be a safe space to talk about mental health, because there aren't that many. Fordham Athletics usually has a guest speaker come in twice a year where they talk about mental health and they talk about different things that everyone's going through their lives, and they ask questions, people stand up. And I know everyone that goes to those meetings is impacted from it. You can see so many people just in tears because they think of stuff that they keep to themselves all the time. And a lot of people go up in front of the entire athletic department and all the athletes and go up and share their story. just different things that they go through life. And you can see how moved people are from those little events. Well, they're big events because everyone's there, but they only happen once or twice a year. And so with this group connect, having a space where people can come together maybe for an hour, hour and a half, and talk about certain topics that we pick as a group, and then just going from there, talking about identity, talking about different problems we see in society. It can be about what's going on in the media, going on in the news. It can be what's going on in your life. And just having some place to speak about things, especially for my subgroup, and this is why I'm the executive of it, of the LGBTQ, and having a space for people to talk about it, because it's not locker room talk. It's
Right.
It's not something you talk about on campus. I still feel uncomfortable speaking about it in public because I know people turn their heads. And that's upsetting because it's a taboo subject, but it's not to me. And I hope with these conversations, and my subgroups it's not meant just for people that identify as LGBTQ+, but allies can come as well. Anyone can come and just understand and learn from people around you and learn from your community is going to be very impactful for all of us, especially because I know for a fact that when I have something that's on my mind, something I cannot get rid of, and for me it was lying myself and not coming out, it's not good for play. It's not good for on the field, because I always just keep eating myself away, just thinking about this one thing. I didn't have the ability to focus on school, didn't focus on sports, because it was just like, it's just so draining, because it's something that you carry on yourself for so long. And with Fordham Connect, I hope this is a space that people can express themselves and get things off their chest that they fight through on a day-to-day basis.
And you can find Fordham Connect on Twitter or Instagram. If you're listening, especially if you're an athlete, give them a follow and hopefully join a meeting. Finally, Jaden, you came out publicly nearly a full year ago at this point.
Yeah.
What have you learned in that year? What have you come away with from this experience?
I've come away with so much. Where do I start? Just the idea that people are a lot more accepting than you think. I realized a lot of maybe the homophobia was internalized. I used to think that everyone was going to only think of me as gay. People weren't going to accept me. I knew my family would accept me. I never had to worry about that. But my close relationships with friends, close relationships with coaches, teammates, or anything, that's something you don't know. You don't know until you ask. You don't know until you tell people. And as you know, I had a good support system. But what I got out of this year is that the world is so much bigger than you think, and there's so many other people in the LGBTQ community that are very loving and supporting that I had no idea about, because I didn't identify with the community, and I wasn't aware of everything that goes on and a lot of the problems that people face, which is very upsetting. But one thing I got out of it is how much I appreciate the people around me, because they are very accepting. And I also got out of this just my platform can be very impactful for a lot of people. Just in the past week or two, and having the interview in News 12, I've had people I don't know come up to me if I'm walking through Fordham, or even the workers in the CAF saying like, "Hey, I seen in the news, love what you're doing. Like, I'm proud of you." or people that DM me on my Instagram saying, "Hey, thank you for doing this. This really helped me." There was this man that texted me saying, "Hey, I'm 42 years old. I watched your video on the news, and I just want to say thank you. This is something that helped me accept myself and realize that I can be comfortable with myself. And I finally came out to my mother." And that those stories hit me.
Mm.
And some people just need to hear it from someone else. Someone just need to hear, like, hey, other people are also out. It is okay to be LGBTQ, and that's one thing that I would take through my entire life. Just how impactful one person can be to so many people that you don't even know. Because I know that even if people hadn't messaged me, it had impacted someone, and that really sticks with me.
Thank you, Jaden, and I hope that us speaking today can do even more. And thank you for having this conversation, because there's nothing more important, and you're moving this conversation forward, and we need to have it around sports specifically, which is a place where sexuality is taboo. So thank you so much, yeah, just thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I learn a lot about myself every time I talk to someone, because you do ask questions that I usually don't think about on my own time. But it's very just relieving to even be able to have these conversations, because I never, this time last year before I was out, I wouldn't have. And that's one thing that I'm so grateful for the people around me, and just how society is just moving forward, to the fact that I can sit on a Zoom call with you and speak about these topics, is one thing I appreciate, and I thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I also find that people people who don't who aren't even queer, not even LGBT, but they can come away from conversations like this, and find how it has a place in their life, because being marginalized, of course, comes in so many different forms. So
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Jaden Vazquez, who joined us today on this FUV Sports Spotlight. He is number 18 for the Fordham Rams, playing linebacker, a junior, and he is the executive of the LGBTQ plus subgroup at Fordham Connect. And thank you for joining us finally, and we hope to see you soon at another FUV Sports Spotlight.
Thank you.